All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of M.A.C.E, the show where we talk about Disney Plus Marvel shows. So today with me, I have Luke and Elisa, as always.
Hey, before we get into the episode, we'd like to announce that we are officially on social media. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Just search for Agents of M.A.C.E, and we'll drop the links in the show notes as well.
Well, boys, should we start with the beginning of the episode with that Wakanda scene?
Oh my gosh, it was so good.
I almost wish every episode would start like that because I love that backstory.
Yeah, it was really great. I mean, I know I talk about Sebastian Stan's face literally every week, but my God, like the full range of human emotion happens during this scene.
It was very intense to I feel like this show kind of keeps you on your toes, not in like a bad way where it feels like you're getting yanked around, but it's just like you go into it and I don't know, I expect the beginning of the episode to be kind of like a build and maybe a joke gets thrown in or something, and it was just like, no, serious. Like he's breaking down, you're seeing his like mental state during his time in Wakanda. He doesn't have an arm. They're like basically helping him free himself from this mind control. And I was just like, oh my God, this is intense. He's crying, but then at the end he smiles and you're like, oh, he's going to be okay. But also, wow, that was tough.
He's free, you guys.
Which I would kind of relate this little opening scene kind of back with the first episode as a good kind of connection there, a good bridge there of really understanding like what he was going through personally to get out of that trance that he was able to get locked into. And yeah, exactly. The emotion that he portrayed just shows you like the struggle that he must have really been going through, but it's like the weight lifted off his shoulder. That now like he can just kind of go be himself finally, or once again, not be this prisoner.
I think this all kind of goes back to the first episode for me, because here we are again where it's just like, man, Bucky's story is way more interesting than Sam's story. Sorry, Sam, you're cool, but like, there's so many more levels to Bucky's story. It's almost more relatable in a weird way because you're seeing him going through like, I know it's more of like a comic book version of what people go through in their day-to-day lives, but he's struggling with like real issues. And not that Sam isn't too, with like the loan and the boat, stuff like that, but it's just like that stuff almost seems like the writers put that on the back burner.
Yeah, Sam's stuff is not like all-consuming existential horror either.
Right.
Like Bucky's is.
Right. And it's just, I don't know, it's just so much more interesting to me to get to see Bucky's like his, not backstory, because we know his backstory, but like the space between where, you know, I want to see more of him being the Winter Soldier. I want to see more of him in his time in Wakanda and how they like helped him rehabilitate. I think that's more interesting to me than Sam having family problems.
Yeah. And we could maybe even look at this as a high level of Disney maybe kind of looking at this from how, you know, the audience is engaging with it. Because if the audience all collectively really loves this, then that kind of opens, they're like, okay, we need to do a spin-off series of Bucky and Wakanda. And, you know, and I'd be down. They could watch it.
Yeah.
They could.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was just,
exactly.
White Wolf. I also noticed this episode, they gave him a new jacket. He wore like a black. Yeah. Well, and he wore the black leather jacket for so long, and now he has like a navy jacket with like hints of red around some of the edges. And I was like, ooh, okay, giving him like a cool dark Captain America Bucky jacket. I don't know. I thought it was really cool. I was into it.
I kind of picked up on that, but I don't know. I didn't pay too much attention to that. But now that you say it, I kind of want to go back through the comics just to see, like, did he have a kind of standard outfit, or did it change a lot?
Yeah, I didn't think about that either. But I was just kind of like, maybe this is them like transitioning him from being like brooding, always wearing all black, to like, okay, now he's kind of branching out. he's on a bit of a roll, make him more likable. I don't, not that he's not likable. I mean, but I feel like the show wants you to think he's not likable.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I know you, Luke, you enjoyed the Zemo dancing scene so much in the last episode. So I was wondering what your thoughts were on the first time we see Zemo in this episode. He's wandering around in a robe. And all I could think was like, what is happening right now? Why is the Zemo show walking around in this apartment in like a bathrobe while Sam and Bucky are discussing like next steps?
I mean, this is kind of like the puppet master approach, right? You know that Zemo's got everything planned out. Like, could he be power broker? Maybe. Probably not. But he knows what he's doing. And we already kind of got the nod that, like, okay, he's got money. So, yeah, like, he's going to live it up lavishly. That's just his character. That's just what he's all about. Yeah, that whole opening scene, though, like, that part didn't bother me. It was more the dialogue there was, I don't know, tongue-in-cheek, little, I don't know. I just, like, right after going to that powerful opening scene to that was just kind of like, it just like, just kind of almost nosedived a little bit. But the show does pick back up, which is really great. The first thing I picked up here was like the whole Turkish delights thing. And there's like two moments of that, but that was kind of interesting. Which the Turkish lights that they used was not what I was expecting, especially if you look at like The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe and what they did in that film. That's kind of what, when I hear that, that's what I expect to see. Where here we got like more of a traditional like candy in a wrapper, but that was still kind of fun because they kind of went along that same path from the book.
Have y'all ever had Turkish delight?
I actually have not.
Okay, yeah. My husband and I both yelled no whenever he tried to get them to eat it because we both know it's gross. It is not good. What they have in Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe looks so much better than the thing that it actually is.
Well, I was excited when he said it because that was my first thought too. I was like, oh, Lion, Witch, and Wardrobe. Okay, cool. But then I was like, well, hang on. Maybe it's like a Marvel thing. And like, I'm thinking that they're talking about it, but really it's some like nod to a Marvel thing. So I looked it up. It's not really anywhere in the MCU, or the comic universe either.
Emo just likes gross candy.
Yeah. Well, I agree that I liked it because it was so parallel, right? Like the witch uses them in Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe to trick the youngest son, right? Or the oldest?
The youngest.
Yeah, to like turn on his siblings. And this time here we are with a group of kids. I don't know that it's the youngest. I don't know that matters that much, but it's here you are picking this kid to kind of turn on everybody else and help you. Just to get intel. And if you look at it from that perspective, it's more or less the same thing. The witch wanted to know, like, give me intel on, what your siblings are up to. In this case, it was like, you know where this person is, so. Right. And it made me want to go back to watch the scene where they find Zemo in prison, because he has a bunch of books on the shelf and a bunch of books on the floor. And I was like, man, that would be so cool if he had the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe somewhere in his prison cell. And this is like a weird callback for people that sat there and looked at all the books that he had. Yeah. Well, we'll do that and we can talk about it in the next episode. I thought the head tilt comment was funny, but it was that moment where he was having this whole conversation about supremacists, and which in my mind, the whole conversation about supremacists was almost like foreshadowing for John, rather than, I mean, I know he was talking about Carly the whole time, like that was his whole speech was about Carly, but in my mind I was like, oh, he's talking about Captain America, right? Like that he's a supremacist and he wants power. I don't know, that was just how I took it. But then he said the head tilt comment, and Zemo like straightens his head, and I was like, funny, but like you took me out of the serious moment a little too soon. I feel like Zemo was like, you're not siding with Zemo, but you're kind of like, oh, he has a point. Like, they're trying to make him more relatable, right? And like his ideals, rather than being like, he's a bad guy. And I feel like that we were almost there to the point of you're like, yeah, all right, okay, Zemo, I'm on your side a little bit. And then like comedy moment and then end of scene. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, that could be a trend we're going to see. Unless with the finale, the finale I think will be a big moment for Zemo. And if I had any frustration with this episode, it's kind of like that. It's like who do we really need to pay attention to? Why are there so many quote unquote villains going on? And then we'll get it to the later end of this episode, but something major happens and that just kind of like amplifies that whole thing. And it's like, who really matters? But that's the big moment that we'll talk about at the end.
I don't know that I liked that John Walker is unshaven now. I understand that it's like a visual cue that maybe he's losing it a little bit, but it just seems like not enough time has passed, which is another thing that we don't really know, right? We don't really know how long this could all take place in a week. This could all take place in a month. I don't know that we really have a solid timeline, but it just seems like he was clean shaven and then boom, now he looks like he sleeps outside and like,
yeah,
doesn't take showers.
There's the one line where, was it Sam who's like, how did you find us? So that kind of does, I guess, backs that point of like, how long is really all this going on? Yeah, this is one of those good things of like when you rewatch the episode, it's finding those little clues of like, when did Sam and Bucky travel to where they're at now, and where were they with Captain America, John Walker, before they left? So kind of gauge of like, he's got to figure out, but it's government, like they've got eyes on everything, so it probably didn't take them that long. And also he made a good point. He's like, y'all are Avengers, like people are snapping pictures. And
yeah, and as he said that, like everyone around them was taking pictures.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or foreshadowing.
Yeah. Kind of a nod to The Boys in a way, because like that whole, series is about, managing their social, their influence profiles and all that.
Well, like, I don't want to get too far in the episode, so I'm going to keep with what my notes have written as I was watching the episode. But I think about like the middle of the episode, I was to a point where it was clear in my mind that, okay, John isn't doing this to stop Carly. John is doing this because he wants the serum. And I feel like we see that crop up so many times in this episode, where like the question is brought about, like, would you take the serum? Are super soldiers good? Is it worth it to have superpower? And so I just kind of wanted to pitch that question to you guys. If you had the choice to take the super soldier serum, would you take it, not knowing, I guess, what you know from the show, that you could go crazy, but thinking about it more just like rationally, like, oh, if you had the chance, would you take it?
You go first.
I was about to say the same thing. Ooh, from the perspective of not knowing, yes, I'd probably take it, just because it's the concept of like, this is going to give you like, the superhuman abilities. And I feel like everyone is probably keeping that at the forefront of their mind of like, if I take this, I can, run faster, jump further, fight harder, et cetera, et cetera. But, I did enjoy the intro to this whole concept because, it kind of goes back to the first Captain America, when Steve is having that conversation about it, and the doctor was like, this is going to bring out what's inside of you. It's going to amplify it, which was really nice. That was a good callback, because that set up everything else in this episode so perfectly. But yeah, from me, yeah, I would take it.
I think I would take it and then only use it for like a party trick thing where like every once in a while somebody's like, I bet you can't lift that entire, I don't know, whatever it would be, 4x4 outside. I'd be like, oh, really? And then I would do it. I don't have that many opportunities for other like action in my life, so I feel like it'd be pretty safe with me.
I think that's a good answer. I like that. I too, watching the episode, we see Sam get asked a question and he doesn't hesitate and he says no. Zima's like, oh, no hesitation. And so that's a moment where you're like, you kind of hang on to that. And then later, John and Battlestar are talking about it. And John asks the question and Battlestar doesn't hesitate and says yes. And in my mind, my first thought was, oh, the show makes you think that's the wrong answer. But I know that if I had the choice, I too would probably say yes without hesitation. Because like you said, like in my mind, at least, which like, I mean, I guess everyone sees the best in themselves, right? So in my mind, even if whatever's inside of me comes out, it's just going to be a big nerd that wants to be a superhero. So I think that I'd be okay. So yeah, I would take it. I'd take it too.
You kind of look from like, Sam's already an Avenger. He's been doing this for a while, so he knows what he's capable of. And he's fought so many different villains and seen so many different things. Like, it makes sense. Whereas like now it's like, how long has Battlestar really been around? From his perspective, he's like, we're going up against these guys and they're kind of getting away. Like, we're just going to go take this and take them down.
Mm-hmm. And I can understand that from John's perspective too, right? Like he's trying way too hard to live up to this ideal of Captain America that he is clearly not. But I think that in his mind, that's the missing piece. It's not that he isn't good. It's that he's not the strongest.
Mm-hmm.
And even when he gets later on gets beat up by the Dora Milaje, I mean,
so good.
The first thing he says after they beat him up is like, they're not even super soldiers.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, so I think that's just another point of him being like, I am not prepared for this if I don't have the serum. Like, I'm not strong enough to do anything.
Yeah, and that could be what's weighing on him mentally, is like they're lifting him up on this pedestal of like, you are Captain America, and now internally he's like, I'm a nobody. It's like, yet, on the outside I'm trying my best to be this, this hero, but in reality, no, I'm probably not cut out for this. So like, I need to go find this serum and get to work.
They had that discussion really early in the episode about how the serum can like corrupt people. And they mentioned, it never did that to Steve, but then they immediately say, oh, there's never been another Steve Rogers. And that's kind of been like the focus of the entire series. Of course, there's never been another Steve Rogers. And so that's why there's all this debate and inner struggle about who's worthy to carry the shield. And then we see how that turns out later on in the episode. And John Walker is, again, like y'all said, he's trying so hard, but he's going about it in exactly the wrong way because he doesn't have what Steve had. He's focused on the wrong stuff. Bless his heart.
I think that's a great point. And this goes back to something we talked about at the beginning, is like, what if the character of Steve Rogers is still around? He's got to be paying attention to all this if he's around. If he's still just the elderly man state, like, is yeah. Would it get to a point where like we got to go talk to him and kind of get the kick in the butt? Like, you guys got to get in gear, and that would be interesting. I don't see them doing that, but
I still think he's dead.
Think he's dead.
He's on the moon.
It's on the moon. Yeah.
Yeah. They all know. I liked that part too. And when they said there's never been another Steve, but in my mind, all I could think was, well, what about Bucky because Bucky wasn't really corrupted because of the serum. He was corrupted because he was brainwashed. But now that he's broken free from that, I mean, I feel like he's also stable. I mean, I feel like any instability in Bucky is going to be a side effect of the brainwash rather than a side effect of some sort of inner demons mixing with the super soldier serum that he has. So I don't know. I understand what they're saying, but at the same time, I was just like, I mean, Bucky's right there. Like, yeah, he's not Steve Rogers, but he was like Steve's right-hand man.
Yeah, they could have layered.
Bucky was pretty good.
So what I want to know is, we'll kind of jump a little bit ahead, but once John gets his butt kicked, and you get to see the Dormelage in action, we kind of go to another scene where Carly is calling. Oh no, that's before Carly calls. There's the big, I don't know what you want to call it, the big fight of the episode, where they find out where, through the use of the Turkish delights, they find out where this funeral is going to be held. And Sam is able to kind of be like, hey, like, let me go talk to her. And this is where we really start to see John break. And I don't know if it's, I mean, yes, eventually we find out that he has taken the serum and now he's super strong. But like, how? I want to know how did he take it? We know that he picked it up when they were running away, when Carly was running away. But how does he take the serum? Like, in Captain America, it was like 30 scientists and this huge machine, and all this stuff had to happen for him to get the serum. Now the serum is one tiny vial. And did he drink it? Did he inject it? Did he go to Power Broker and Power Broker gave him powers? And if so, why wouldn't he have like split it and given it to both of them? So John and Battlestar have like half super strength or something. I don't know. I just feel like that was my biggest confusing part of this episode, that I feel like maybe it's because we're on like a shorter episode time constraint, but it just seemed like that was rushed. That like we saw him steal essentially the last serum, and then all of a sudden he had somehow taken it.
Yeah. And for me, that whole segment was a little bit choppy, you know, with some of the camera angles and everything. It's like, that was a big moment. You see that, you know, they're scattered all over the floor. And the whole time I'm just paying attention, like, you know, trying to find where they all are. I was like, are they going to crush them all? And even at the same time, I was like, is there something around? Is this just one of those things where you just put it in this like pistol type thing that you can just do yourself? So I was kind of looking for that, and I was like, oh, is you know, John going to come in, grab one, and then we actually get to see it, like see him do that? Because you know that's what he wants to do. So that's what I was kind of like building myself up, like, okay, are we going to see this? And then like, where's that going to go? But no, you don't. He hides it and tries to be all secretive. But yeah, no, that's a great point. Like, yeah, or did the government help him? You know?
Well, and that's what I was thinking. Like, is it Power Broker? Because like we still don't really know his allegiances. I mean, in the comics, we know that he's the one that gave John Walker and Battlestar their power. So are we supposed to think that, like, rather than, and that's what I was thinking at the beginning of this episode, is that John isn't out to catch Carly to stop Carly. John is out to catch Carly because the United States government knows that she has the serum, because they found out that Power Broker's serum doctor died and she stole the last bit of serum. So the United States government is now like, all right, John, you need to find her so we can get that serum and make more soldiers. And then Zemo has other plans, and smashes them. But of course, the one that rolls away, John gets. So in my mind, that's who it is. 100% Power Broker gave John that injection. But it just doesn't make sense time-wise, because it's like that happens. They go regroup. And then it seems like maybe the next day is when Carly calls and says, hey, like, we need to talk. Or calls Sam's sister.
Right.
Says, hey, like, you need to tell me. Which I really liked the camera work on that. I thought it was really good. It reminded me of the first episode with the weird angles to kind of make you feel what Bucky was feeling. And I felt like they did that again with like a lot of strange angles and like a little bit of a shaky cam to make the whole moment really tense. I thought that was really cool. But yeah, it seemed like that happened, and then boom, all of a sudden now they're fighting again, and he's a super soldier.
I interpreted it as he didn't go there to get the serum, but whenever he had the opportunity, since he had been thinking about his own kind of inferiority, he took that chance when he had it. And I just figured they probably had some syringes or whatever they were using laying around since they were keeping them stored. And also, and this is just kind of a side thought, but connected. What if Sharon is the power broker?
Ooh.
I mean, like, I don't feel like somebody whose job is kind of, I know this is not her job, but, you know, throwing weird art parties would have the kind of access to things that she has. And so whenever she's like saying, I've got a couple of satellites, it's like, why do you have satellites unless you've got some really serious stuff going on? I don't know. I feel like if we're going to find out that who the power broker is this season, I feel like it's Sharon. I don't know why. I don't know why she would be doing this, but
I could be on board with that, because the biggest clue that we get every episode is power broker is watching. So,
and she's got satellites.
She's got satellites. You know, that was a big clue, is like, you know, when Sam's looking at, you know, his wrist gadget and he can see the map of everything, and he tells Bucky like, hey, I'll send you where they're at. Yeah, that's a huge clue. The only other thing that would make sense there is the government, just because it kind of feels like the government always has our eyes on everyone from every little thing. But
well, do you think that, like, if she is the power broker, she would have to be a power broker that nobody knew, like nobody has seen her, because they see she's there with them when they go find the doctor who's making the serum for the power broker. And I feel like he would have been like, oh, hey, you're the power broker. But I could see it being something like the power broker is like a shadow that nobody gets face-to-face contact with. There was one scene that I noted that I was very confused about. So when she's walking and talking on the phone with Sam and talking about the satellites, she looks fine. Later in the episode, when she's on the phone, she has a big cut on her lip that wasn't there in the previous episode or the first time we see her in this episode. And so I don't know if that is just like, oops, somebody wasn't thinking about continuity and was like, shoot, she should have had a busted lip, let's do that. Or if that's like something maybe that we'll see in the next episode or even the last episode when they reveal something about whatever Sharon is doing. And we'll get to see something like that whole timeline, but from her perspective. Maybe she gets in a fight with somebody. So like now that you say that, that is coming straight to my mind that, oh my God, maybe you're right. And she is the power broker and she got in a fight with somebody. Or maybe the power broker is just a title and whoever kills power broker becomes the new power broker. Like, we don't really know. It could be anything at this point.
Yeah, I feel like the cut on the lip wasn't an error. It's going to be something that they explain later. She got into, I guess, a fist fight with somebody between those two scenes.
Well, 2 episodes left. I could see them explaining that in the next episode. That's probably what next episode is going to be, is answering a lot of questions to build it up to one specific point, which will be the finale.
Well, speaking of finale, I guess we'll talk about this big fight scene. I was super excited because I feel like they did a lot of really cool choreography in this fight scene, where it seems like they were like, how can we best use everybody's what they've got? Because when Sam uses his jet pack to like burn a guy off of him, I was like, oh my gosh, that was so cool. That was so creative. Like, I like that they're giving him the tools he needs to like stand up against all these super soldiers and not just be like Bucky is the only one that can fight them. They're like, no, Sam can do it too. But not in like an Iron Man way where he has like 1,000 gadgets. It's just like, no, he's got wings and that's what he uses. And it's like, oh, this is cool. I really like that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Anytime we see something with like a gadget, that I love it. That's my favorite part of these shows. Because I love the tech and the gear and what they can do. So like even though like the whole wrist thing, that was so sweet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was very into that whole scene. But that is where we get to see John Walker lose it. And
yeah. So let's talk about why he lost it, because this was an interesting moment for me because this differs from the comics, and this is something I was not expecting. And this is with Battlestar. Why'd they kill him off?
I thought the same thing, and then my mind started like churning, and I was like, what if they did split that serum? And like maybe he's not dead, but he's comatose or something, and that set John off, but then he's gonna come back. But then I was like, oh, that's stupid. Like that there's no real need for Battlestar. Not to say like they should have killed him off, but he was clearly a replacement for John Walker's parents, which in the comics, his parents are the ones that get killed, and that's what sets him off, and he goes crazy. But in this, it was clearly like this was the point that they were like, all right, kill Battlestar. That's going to set him off. He's going to lose it. And boy, did he lose it.
Yeah, God, that was rough.
Mm-hmm. And it was like I don't want to say like a touching moment, but it was a moment where you were like, you kind of felt bad for him because he's clearly not ready to be Captain America, and he's been forced on this role, and he's doing the best that, or at least what he thinks is the best he can. And Battlestar seems to be the only person there with him, and then they killed him. And at least that's how I took it. I know you could also take it like he's been crazy this whole time, and mixing his like attitude and rage issues with the super soldier serum that he clearly just took within the day. That's what set him off.
Yeah. No, this was the perfect kind of wrap up for this episode, was just showing like, it just really shows who he really is, you know, that him being Captain America is nothing but a trick. It's just what you see on the outside, that he's trying to make this image for everyone, but really he's, you know, he'll kill. He doesn't care. Like, he's just trying to get, you know, it's just soldier, really, you know, he is a soldier, like, you know, and he's going to do whatever it takes to get to the point where, you know, yes, Steve was a soldier, but not really like that. You know, he's going to think about getting the answers, like justice, like, you know, you're wrong, you're going to go down for this, but in more of like a justful way. Like, yeah, I like this ending. I had to rewind. I rewound and watched like the last 10 minutes at least 3 times.
My only problem with it, and it's my biggest problem with Captain America just in general, like all Captain Americas, is like the shield seems like something that like, okay, you're going to throw it as like your long distance weapon. I get it. But once he knocks the guy down and is like 2 feet away from him and he's still throwing the shield into him, it just seemed excessive, but not saying excessive as like, I get it, he's losing it and he's going to kill this guy with the shield. Just excessive. Like, what was the point of that? Like that seems.
Yeah. Well, you could look at it as
pointless.
like the shield is really a symbol, right? So is it like, is he destroying the symbol or is he changing the symbol? Because everyone watching. Everyone had their phones out. So now what is the world going to, what are they going to see when they see Captain America now?
That blood stain on the bottom of the shield.
Exactly.
Yeah, wow.
Which was really gruesome.
Yes. Although I do have to give a lot of credit to Wyatt Russell. That's the name of the actor who plays John Walker. He's doing something right for everybody to hate him so completely in 4 episodes. Whenever the Wakandans were beating him up earlier on, I was like, oh boy, I hope they beat him up so bad that they fix his underbite. And I was just really, really rooting for them, just like Zemo just over there just kind of casually sipping his drink. Nobody's going in to help him. But again, we get so many facets of this character. And he had so much that we should have been going for him at the beginning, but no. Because, again, Wyatt Russell knows exactly what he's doing. He's playing the photo negative of Steve Rogers, and he's doing it really, really, really well. Just good job. I'm proud of you, bud.
Yeah, as we're talking about the shield, too, think about the moment earlier when he did lose that fight where they were saying, let's take the shield. And then was it AO that said no, leave it? That's probably a big moment where you think back on that now of yeah, they probably should have took it.
Yeah, well, it's theirs. I mean,
yeah.
Well, I mean, again, but we also don't know, right? Because this is a new shield, so maybe it's not theirs. But I mean, theoretically, it's their shield. They should take it.
Yeah,
it'd be adamantium.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to mention AO really quick. So AO is also part of, she's part of the Dora Milaje, which is their Queen's Guard, King's Guard, Super Guard of Wakanda. But there's also a sect of that called the Midnight Angels, which is pretty much the best and brightest of the Dora Milaje, which is already the best and brightest of all the warriors in Wakanda. So it's the best of the best. And they show up in the Doom War comics, which I'm a huge Deadpool fan. So usually if it has Deadpool in it, I've probably read it or will read it. And so this was exciting for me to get to see a character that showed up in one of those Deadpool comics because the Midnight Angels help Deadpool fight Dr. Doom when he's taking over the world. So I thought that was a cool, they're bringing in all these characters from not one-off characters, but characters that kind of show up as a very minimal role in the comics, and they're putting them in the movies, and it's oh, this is okay, cool, all right, I know that character.
That's the series I want to see now. I think that would be fantastic.
Yeah, I'd watch that. Midnight Angels, it's just them tearing stuff up.
No, we could have Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool in there too, and then cast the right Dr. Doom. Good to go. I guess since we're speaking of that, I did this was earlier in the episode where they referenced the Patch Act. This could have been nothing, but you could also look at it as something from the previous episode where it could be another X-Men reference. Since we know Wolverine was known as Patch, he kind of thought that could be a good, clever disguise if he just wears a patch and calls himself that. So it could have meant nothing. It could have been another little nod, but I enjoyed that.
That's what I want. I want more. There were a lot of times in this episode that I paused and considered translating signs and stuff like that. But after the upset that was the last one, I didn't do that. But I did feel like this episode had so many chances for little Easter eggs to pop up. And I feel like they just didn't. Not that there weren't. I mean, there were plenty, but it seemed like there were so many more opportunities this episode. Even just from a comic book fan, Marvel fan viewing, it'd be fun to see more things in the background, knowing that that's what they're good at anyway. It seems like these last couple episodes, they've been here's the 2 big things in the background, but that's it.
Yeah. So going back to the end, I guess where I'm at now is, what are they going to do with the Flag Smashers? It seems like their kind of storyline within this is almost concluded. Maybe their whole purpose was to get Walker to his breaking point. Because now, like, they don't have any more serum. Power Broker, I guess, you know, he could do whatever he wanted. We don't know. Power Broker himself could take him out, or he could use his posse to take him out if he has one. So it's like, what are we going to get from them? You know, because now it seems like all the eyes are going to be on Walker. And literally, like, as we saw in the end, like, everyone in the world is going to see what he just did. So we got 2 episodes left. So it feels like he's now like the top baddie almost. So are we just going to be focused on him? Are they going to have to take him down? Like, I just hope they kind of do this right so it just doesn't feel messy. We have 3 different kind of, at this point it feels like you got 3 different villains, and that's a lot. Like, for 2 episodes left, hopefully they'll kind of tighten those stories and, you know, doesn't make it too messy where it gets just confusing.
I agree. I think that the show definitely started out with a bunch of villains, and now we're kind of like, Power Broker, is he a bad guy? Is he not? We're not really sure. He's just kind of Power Broker. The Flag Smashers, it's like every episode you seem to like be on their side, and then Carly does something, and then you're like, oh yeah, no, wait, don't do that. But you're not, I don't know, I don't see them as like, they're bad guys. And now John Walker is like, well, he's the bad guy, right? I mean, Zemo's not really a bad guy. We never found out anything more about the LFA or
exactly,
LFG or whatever they've gone.
I mean, you could look at Zemo like Loki, unless he is Loki. He's just gonna float around and do his thing. That's just his, and I'm cool with that. I think it'd be even cooler if he actually is Loki. Like, that'd be crazy. Probably not, but that would be crazy. But yeah, Zemo just feels like now they've kind of set him up to be that character that just kind of shows up, and it's like, you know, he'll do whatever he wants just like to help out. That's going to keep him going moving forward.
Yeah, on his like weird, killing super soldier.
Yeah.
And that's another thing too. I feel like they take all, like, every villain that I feel like the show gives us, they immediately take that villain and show us why they are doing the things that they're doing to make it seem like, oh, okay, they're not that bad. Like, is he going about it the right way? No, but I understand his issue. And it's not like world domination. It's just like, hey, we don't need a bunch of super soldiers. So it's like, oh, okay. In the grand scheme of evil plots, that's not top of the list, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my chief criticism of the Flag Smashers, outside of, you know, murdering people, is that their name doesn't make sense. Like, you can't smash a flag. That just makes a flag wrinkly. In my notes, I always write Team Thanos, because that's really what they are.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see if they're still anything next week.
Yeah, it feels like they'd be nothing.
Yeah.
And y'all are right about Zemo. He's just going to boop in and out and do his own thing. Maybe pull some strings to where he ultimately comes out on top in some sense. But yeah, I don't really see him as being the big threat this season.
Well, that's almost how it seems, though, is that like they think they're using him, but really he's using them. Like, every time that they've gotten him to lead them to something, he's used it to his advantage and done what he wants to do and shoots people. And so the whole time it's like, why do you guys keep letting him come with you?
Yeah. They could set this up to where at the final moment, he's going to be there, where based on his decision, we'll decide, like, it's either going to hurt Sam and Bucky or it's going to help them win.
Well, do you think that Zemo's going to live? Because I had a thought today that I feel like they're making Zemo so likable that they're going to kill him in the last episode.
That would be
because
terrible.
He is a bad guy. I mean, I agree, but it seems like the show is trying too hard to make me like Zemo when he's a bad guy. And so all I can think is like, they're going to make me like him so much that at the end he sacrifices himself to save Bucky or to kill John Walker or something. Something's going to happen and he's going to die in a heroic way to redeem Zemo to the world, even though Zemo's a bad guy in the comics and it doesn't make sense.
Or maybe they've learned their lesson about trying to kill off really popular villains. Like, they apparently tried legitimately to kill off Loki in Thor: The Dark World, but then there was such like a backlash from the early audiences that they made it to where he just kind of slipped in as Odin at the end. So that could be it. Maybe he like makes it look like he's dead, but then later he's like, and he's on his plane with his champagne again. And that, I think it was velvet purple thing. That might happen.
Well, speaking of Loki, the second trailer came out this week. And boy, oh boy, was it packed full of so many cool and confusing and exciting things. I don't even know where to start other than I can't wait.
Me neither.
It's a lot of fun. I could watch that trailer like every day.
Yeah.
I'm really anxious to see how they incorporate the Vote Loki arc, or if that's literally going to be just like a side gag that they do really early on whenever he gets to, I guess, jump around in time and space like he likes to do. Because it was a short series back a few years ago, 2016, where he ran for president, and all these things that should have disqualified him or made people not want to vote for him wound up not being an issue at all, and it was hilarious. Like, one of them was somebody said, well, you weren't born in America. He's like, actually, I was. This version of me was. I was born in New Jersey. What are you going to say about it?
I am a little nervous only because it seems like we're going to get another beginning of WandaVision, where I feel like the first 3 or 4 episodes of the Loki show are going to be that, where it's like him jumping around to different Loki timelines, which like cool. I'm excited to see it, but coming off of a show like going from WandaVision, which was kind of that, right? Like the whole first half of WandaVision was very just like disjointed. You're getting to kind of see the story happen in the background, but in the forefront, it's just like episode to episode. And then we come to this show where it's like every episode leads into the next episode, and every plot point is like in your face, forefront of the screen, to then go back to a show that's like kind of like a monster of the week. Like, I'm going back in time. I'm going forward in time. Now I'm this version of Loki. Now I'm this version of Loki. And like, I get that it's building up to a story, but and again, I mean, the show's not out, so I don't know. I'm just basing this off of the trailers that have come out so far. But I don't want it to be a Monster of the Week Loki-verse show where we just get to see, like, I want a little bit more story out of it.
Aren't we getting more episodes with Loki? I thought I saw we're getting like 14 episodes.
I heard it was just 6 hours, but I guess they could spread that out across. Well, and I think it's already been established that they're going to do a second season. Maybe that's what they were talking about. But we'll just have to see.
Yeah. I did not look into like, I just heard maybe it was in the Twitterverse that it was going to be like 14 episodes. But even at that, are they 30-minute episodes? Are they an hour or 40 minutes or whatever they are? But yeah, that is thing. The show looks so much fun, but I hope it's paced very well. I hope it's just not like too much that it just gets confusing and kind of break, as long as they can keep you understanding the story and moving along, that'll be good.
I've got a lot of hopes for it. I think it's going to be pretty good.
I'm surprised by the cast, like the overall cast, because I didn't even look into that. I just focused on Loki and didn't really look into like who else is going to be in the show. But that was a little surprising, but it's very exciting too.
The Owen Wilson's in it.
Yeah, because it's like as soon as you see him, like immediately you just think, wow, like
yeah, that was my first thought too. I saw him and I went, wow.
Oh, but I love that. But I know they've got a lot of other, like I think Richard E. Grant is supposed to be in it, and he kind of creepily looks like an older Tom Hiddleston, so I think maybe he's playing like an old version of Loki. And I haven't seen this confirmed anywhere, but I remember there was a rumor really early on that Helena Bonham Carter was going to be in it. And I would love to see that too. She's one of my very favorite actresses.
That'd be cool.
Yeah,
Unless
I
they
wonder
just,
when
like-
they're going to release the full cast list.
Never.
Probably never.
We'll wait
And then
until they show up.
Yeah. And I mean, that may be smart because I think they need to keep like some things hidden.
Right. Well, and we could potentially, since he's time traveling, we could see, other characters that have come up before. We could see he could go back to Howard Stark, or he could go back to when the Avengers first come together, or some, like, I feel like there's a lot of opportunity in the Loki show to bring in characters from other movies or even other universes. Like if he goes and sees Matt Murdock and Foggy or goes and sees Jessica Jones or something, like,
I'd
you
lose
mean
it.
Tom Hiddleston's best friend, Charlie Cox? Yes.
That would be so awesome. That'd be really fun. Yeah. So now where my mind is going is like traditionally with Marvel, everything's kind of a bridge into whatever is the next. So now it's like, okay, how are they going to wrap Falcon Winter Soldier up, and what does that kind of lead? Is that just simply going to lead into the next season, or are we going to get a better understanding of like what the next film will be or movie or whatever? Same thing with Loki.
Which is what I was waiting for at the end of WandaVision, and I feel like WandaVision didn't really lead into Falcon Winter Soldier.
No, but with WandaVision, everyone kind of already knew because it was just announced that we know that WandaVision is setting up for the next Doctor Strange.
And we can't forget that it was supposed to be that Falcon and the Winter Soldier was released first. It was supposed to come out like last August, I think. And then they had to delay production because of COVID. And they just happened to finish WandaVision first. So that's the only reason why we got to see that one first.
Well, then I wonder if maybe they had to change the ending of this because maybe this was supposed to lead into WandaVision and now it can't. And so maybe thinking about it leading into Loki, it is like, okay, Zima's Loki, right? Like that's how they're going to tie this together.
Yeah.
But thinking that maybe this is more of like this show's going to end on a note that's going to lead to the next season of this show, and then Loki will start and be its own thing. I guess we'll find out in 2 weeks.
We'll know in 2 weeks, and we'll talk about it.
Did either one of you see this thing on, like, I found it on Slash Film that says that there's supposed to be a significant cameo next week?
No, but I'm excited.
I haven't, and this is a lesson I learned from WandaVision is when new episodes come out, I'm doing my absolute best to stay off of social media, because with WandaVision, I'd get on Twitter like the day of, because these episodes are releasing at like 3 a.m. So like, if I'm hopping on Twitter in the morning, like 8 or 9, more than likely I'm going to see like an image that just kind of ruins the whole episode. I will say, like, in regards to social, I think that was a lesson learned because I haven't really seen spoilers. But I still try to avoid. I'd rather be surprised as much as I can.
I feel like for this show especially, I don't know that they've like not posted as many spoilers, but I feel like this show or this series has done a really good job of making it so even if somebody did post a spoiler, I mean, up until now, like this last episode did have a couple big things happen at the end. But before that, all the big things that happened were kind of medium things where, like, if it got spoiled, it wouldn't necessarily spoil your viewing of the show. Where I feel like WandaVision, there were a ton of times where it was like, well, if you knew that going into it, you'd be like, oh, well, okay, I'm just waiting for them to get there. So I think that this show did a really good job of that, of like keeping things interesting, but not making it so if you heard like, oh, they run into the guy that has this super soldier serum, like that's not going to ruin the episode for you.
Yeah,
I think that'll wrap it up for this week's episode of M.A.C.E. You can listen to us on all of your podcast listening apps and devices. We're everywhere now, worldwide.
And we're on social now. We are on social, so please go follow us, and we'll be be getting out more content there pretty soon.
All right. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you all next week.
Bye.
See ya.